What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to the Week 6 XFL Power Rankings. I hope you guys enjoyed this last weekend's games as much as I did. Wow, there was some really good games. You had the Tampa Bay LA game on Sunday Night Football was a riot, back and forth game that went down to the wire. You had Houston and Seattle to kick it off was a great game. DC versus St. Louis was entertaining with the fan engagement there. So a lot of fun to gamble on these games as well. Good close games. Really enjoying this league, and I hope you guys are too. Not just these videos, but watching the games, telling your friends about this league, telling your families about this league, sharing content on social media, whatever it is. Help this league grow and survive in whatever way you can, because especially if you are like me and you don't give a rip about the NBA and you can't stand it, February, March, these are dead times for sports fans, and I am loving the XFL, everything about it. So really just happy with the product, and I'm more than happy to talk about it. Please do hit that like button as well on this video. All right, let's hop on in. Starting at the bottom, very easy decision here. It's the same team as last week, the Seattle Dragons. They are 1-4. Now, they figured out some things offensively, and that very simply has been the problem for this team. It's a theme throughout the season. These power rankings, you know, defense can help you, but especially in this league and in the NFL as well, defense is just hard to play on a week-to-week basis. It's very high variance, and you just got to score points. And sometimes in this league, especially if you're going up against Houston, you got to be explosive. You got to be able to score fast. And this team, not only is the quarterback an issue, we'll talk about that in a second, but they just don't have the playmakers. I like Kenneth Farrell. I like Austin Prohl, a running back, a slot wide receiver, not really vertical threats to keep up with a PJ Walker and this Houston offense. So they go to BJ Daniels this week, benching Brandon Silvers, who just hasn't had it between the ears and just hasn't been able to have this team have any consistency on offense. Daniels projects a much better fit in the XFL. He's mobile. He can extend plays. Got the ball moving a little bit with his feet. I think he's a better decision maker than Silvers as well. So they at least have something going here. A lot of these teams kind of figuring out their quarterback situations, trying to figure out what kind of teams they want to be. And Seattle definitely at the bottom of that list. And then Tampa Bay, a little bit of the same. Now, they've certainly found their identity on offense, although unfortunately for them, simultaneously, their defense has completely fallen apart after being one of the top defenses in the league for the first few weeks. But Taylor Cornelius, he's Jameis Winston, light. Tampa Bay to Tampa Bay. I mean, it's perfect. He's thrown 4 touchdowns, 4 picks in the last 3 weeks. He's that gunslinging type coming out of the Big 12, the Oklahoma State offense, looking to go vertical. And this offense has been able to move the ball, even though he's going to make those mistakes, just like Jameis Winston. And they even have a Mike Evans clone, or Mike Evans light, in Dan Williams. Now, Dan Williams is definitely a guy who's going to be on the top of a list of top prospects in the XFL, young players that should be getting looks in the NFL as early as, June, July, when this season ends. I think that's actually a really good video idea for me to do when the XFL ends, is 10 players that will be in the NFL next year. But they've got a vertical passing game going. Dan Williams, a very good big-bodied 6'4" wide receiver, coming out of a small school, so just kind of fell through the cracks. So they got some things going, but just haven't been able to put it all together. They're going to fall down 1 spot. And then dropping 3 spots here, the Dallas Renegades. This one is so simple. They have talent. They are not probably the 6th worst team or the 3rd worst team, whatever way you want to look at it, in the XFL. Their quarterback is currently injured. That's the problem. And it's Landry Jones. He'll be maybe back in a week or 2. I don't know. He missed the first game of the season with injury as well. I don't know if there's a whole lot of hope for the quarterback situation here. Now, it's been a total WTF moment for me that they keep going to Philip Nelson. Like, why? I talked about it week 1. It was the easiest bet I've made all year. All I needed to know was that Philip Nelson was starting at quarterback week 1 for Dallas, and I bet against him. I watched Philip Nelson play for the Minnesota Gophers, and he's just not a good quarterback. He can't make quick decisions. He's not accurate anywhere on the field. He's not some elite athlete. He doesn't have a great arm. I don't get it. I don't know why they're going with him. The only other quarterback listed on the roster right now is Brogan Roback. He's a former Hard Knock star. I don't know why they didn't put him in. We've seen other teams make quarterback changes pretty consistently on the fly, and it's worked out for them. So I don't know why Dallas is standing so stubbornly by Philip Nelson. I will tell you this, if he's starting again next week, I will be betting against them yet again. So that's really all it comes down to. They're 2-3 now. It's going to be harder for them to come back and get into these playoffs. I think they're probably a top 4 or 5 team with Landry Jones in there. They've got a lot of roster talent, but that quarterback is so important, even more so in this league, I think, than in the NFL. So +2 here, the LA Wildcats, who win 41-35 over the Tampa Bay Vipers. Really sloppy start, but this team can get hot in a hurry, and this offense is explosive. Josh Johnson has probably reached a point where he's right there with Phillip Walker as far as everything you look for in an XFL quarterback, the ability to push the ball downfield, to have the accuracy downfield, not just that, but the arm strength, the mobility to extend plays. So Josh Johnson, a veteran guy, probably should be in the NFL as a backup, but here he is killing it for the LA Wildcats. So you love that. They've got a vertical explosive element in Saeed Blacknall, who's come on in the last 2 weeks, coming out of Penn State. So Trey McBride as well has been killing it at wide receiver, so they got some vertical threats. They also have Storm Norton, definitely on that top 10 list right now as far as NFL prospects, a 6'8" athletic tackle who's doing a really good job buying time for them to push the ball downfield. So offensively, I love what you're seeing. Defensively, probably the worst defense in the NFL. It just stinks. I mean, and Sean Oakman was one of the biggest names coming into this, like a redemption opportunity for him. He hasn't done jack squat. So the defense is just really, really bad, but you love what you have in that offense. Definitely a team that if they can rip off another win and keep looking this explosive, they're going to continue to climb for sure. And then the New York Guardians, this is a very basic, kind of uninspiring team to me. Not that they're bad. I'm ranking them right here in the top half of the league. And I applaud their efforts to kind of bounce back from kind of the crap that they were going through for a couple weeks with Matt McGloin and a lot of bickering and coaching baffles, like just was kind of a mess. And they've stabilized into being one of the more stable teams in the entire league. Solid defense, right there with one of the best defenses in this entire league. They kind of got a free win this week getting Philip Nelson, but you play who's on your schedule. And offensively, they're running the ball well, and they've made the quarterback change to Luis Perez. Interesting story, a guy who taught himself how to play the position, a former professional bowler who walked on to some D2 school, and here he is in the XFL, kind of game managing this offense, looking pretty good, looking like a starting caliber XFL quarterback. So they've stabilized. They are going to be competing for a playoff spot now. Then number 3 here, the DC Defenders. Now I ranked them 5th last week and caught some flack for it. The 2 weeks leading up to that, they looked really bad. And Cardale Jones was just miserable. But this is something I take a lot of pride in my NFL power rankings as well. I'm not going to overreact to 1 week, 2 weeks even. Small sample sizes, any given Sunday, that kind of thing still applies in the XFL just as it does in the NFL. I looked at the DC Defenders, and they have a really talented team. I love the coach, Pep Hamilton. I had some faith in the combination of Cardale Jones and Tyree Jackson, who have a lot of physical talent to emerge as capable quarterback play, and that's what we're seeing here in the DC Defenders. Perhaps the upside not quite as high as we thought after the first couple weeks when I had them ranked first, but there's still a reason that I didn't push them all the way down to 8, and here they come out and beat the St. Louis Battlehawks, who's one of the best teams in the league. This stadium was rocking. The atmosphere was so fun. They're kind of becoming the Buffalo Bills Mafia of the XFL, just getting hammered and having a fun time at the game, doing beer shoots and all this stuff. So that home crowd really helped this team rally. And they go ahead and bench Cardale Jones, rightfully so. He's been so just embarrassingly bad over the last 9 quarters, really. And they go to Tyree Jackson, who a lot of people are familiar with. Coming out of Buffalo, was a guy that was occasionally mocked into the first round, that kind of Big Ben comp, 6'7", big, thick body, cannon arm. And then he comes out, runs 4.5, 4.6 at the combine. So you know he's got that straight line speed. He is stiff as nails. He is almost deceptively fast because he's such a slow starter that guys come in slow and it screws up their pursuit angles because he does eventually hit a second gear. But yeah, he's just an interesting player. I actually kind of despite being viewed as this big, strong arm vertical passer, was more of a game manager coming into this game with the defense playing so well. A lot of read options and kind of scrambling, picking up first downs with his feet. I definitely want to see more from this passing game if this team's going to become like a number one team, but I like their playmakers. You got Jarrell Presley and Donnell Pumphrey at running back. You got some speed there. You got Rashad Ross, Eli Rogers, Kari Lee at tight end. The first two being wide receivers. They just have some good playmakers offensively, and their secondary is pretty talented as well. I like their combination of veterans and Shamarko Thomas in the slot, Raheem Moore as a safety, Doran Grant, Elijah Campbell, a couple good corners. They just have a lot of talent on this team. That's why I kind of stood by them, and it showed this week winning at home against the St. Louis Battlehawks, who are going to come in number 2 in the power rankings. So they are 3-2, same record as the Defenders. You know, people love to see me put teams above teams that they just beat. That's not necessarily how I think. I don't think on a week-to-week basis. I think kind of macro scale, if these two teams played again, especially if it was in St. Louis, I'd be picking the St. Louis Battlehawks. You know, it's called an upset for a reason. I think DC was, like 4 or 5 point underdogs in that game. But the offense was concerning. Again, it was on the road against a good DC defense, who might be the best defense in the league. But Jordan Ta'amu just didn't have a good week, but he didn't have very many places to go. The receivers weren't getting open. The pass rush was getting in. The coaches asked them to run the ball a ton. They didn't really try to open up the offense, to Ta'amu's credit. So just kind of a bad week. I think they got to reassess their offensive approach a little bit, open this thing up. I think Ta'amu is very capable of being one of the top passers in this league. They just got to let him do it. And then, defense still remains very good. They have the best safety combination in this league. You got Will Hill, who's a veteran, 30 years old or something. He's probably not going anywhere at this point, but he's a very good safety. You got Kenny Robinson, probably the most important name in the XFL, just because he's the only guy who is draft eligible, having dropped out of West Virginia, but a very good safety, continues to play well, and someone that's going to be a draft story in about 6 weeks. And then Dexter McCoyle, he is a veteran safety, linebacker hybrid, kind of plays what I think Isaiah Simmons should play at the next level. Obviously not nearly the player, but that kind of linebacker, strong safety hybrid. So I like the St. Louis Battlehawks. I think they'll bounce back. Definitely the best home field advantage still when they get going at home in St. Louis. And then number 1, this one's easy, the Houston Roughnecks, 5-0, best player in the league. PJ Walker continues to make a case for why he should be a guy that gets not just backup opportunities in the NFL, but an opportunity to go somewhere where he can get some starting reps in practice and at least compete for a starting job somewhere. Definitely going to be fun to follow his journey into the NFL, which I think is inevitable. I don't know if he's ever going to start or not, but I think he definitely has the talent to do so. And we've comped this team to the Kansas City Chiefs because of what PJ Walker does for this team, and this was very similar to a lot of the Chiefs playoff games where there was a little bit of sloppiness early, some turnovers, and just eventually PJ Walker just put the team on his back, and with his good buddy Cam Phillips, who's just going off at wide receiver, 10 receptions, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, another guy that's probably going to be in the NFL next year, a younger guy out of Virginia Tech. This offense is just insane. Defense is fine. They got some secondary guys I like. Charles James, a fun character I used to follow on Twitter, a former Hard Knocks star, so good to see him playing well. Marqueston Huff, an NFL caliber guy, and Dietrich Nichols, an undersized kind of slot corner that I liked coming out of college. So they got some good players in the defenses as well. I think maybe getting kind of oversight due to how good that offense is. So those are the power rankings this week. Again, guys, please do hit that like button. Cheers as always. Enjoy the games this weekend. Peace.